Yeah, you. We got something to talk about, sewist friend. Clips. Aw, friend. You thought you were in trouble, didn't you? No. I just want to talk about clips. I'm Naisa. Let's get to it. When I first started sewing, I didn't know anything about clips. I didn't know anything about fabric. I didn't know anything about patterns. I didn't know anything about machines. Okay, I didn't know anything. Over time, I learned a whole bunch about fabric and clothing and patterns and clips. Most of all, clips. I use these clips for everything. I use them for sewing. I use them for hiding snacks for my kids. Don't tell my kids that I hide snacks from them. I definitely do not hide snacks from my kids. Okay, maybe I do. We're friends. I can share this with you, right? Okay. So in any case, all I knew about were pins, and I use these pins for everything. We're not here to talk about pins. Not necessarily. But we are here to talk about these here clips. You might wonder where clips came from. They're actually from a company called Clover. Now, Clover was the first company to come up with a clip for crafting and sewing. They created this clip and they called it the Wonder Clip. You ever wonder why it was called a Wonder Clip? Well, I looked it up, so I'll tell you because we're friends. It's called a Wonder Clip because the company wondered how many uses crafters and sewists would get out of this tiny little clip. Now, I actually purchased several different types of clips, but at the end of the day, after testing them out on so many different fabrics, what I learned is that many of these generic versions of the Wonder Clip are very, very similar. There aren't very many differences. Now, I have one clip here. It's quite large, but it still works the same as a Wonder Clip. I have another version of the clip that's a little bit smaller and still works like a Wonder Clip. And I have teeny tiny ones here, which can be a little bit cumbersome, but they work just like a Wonder Clip. I would say unless you're super loyal to Clover, the company, any Wonder Clip is probably gonna do. Some of the upsides of using a clip is that they have these really neat markings on the bottom. Can you see that? Don't worry, I'll post a close-up. And these little markings are neat because they help you maintain your seam allowance. When you clip your fabric, you will know whether you are at 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, or 3/16, depending on where you put your clip onto your fabric. I know that's pretty. I'll leave the link to this fabric below. Another upside to using clips is that they have a flat base. So when you're running your clip through your machine, it glides through and stops at the presser foot. That way, you don't actually sew right through your clip. Now that can also be a downside because with pins, generally you can sew right through with a pin and it's not going to ruin your machine. If you happen to get this clip underneath your presser foot, just throw it away. You don't ruin your machine. Just kidding. Another benefit to using clips is that they don't become dull. They don't become dull and make it very difficult for you to put them onto your fabric like pins. When pins become dull, you're more likely to poke yourself. Another upside to using clips is that you're not easily going to shove a clip through your serger like you probably would miss a pin. I say that for a friend. Another benefit to using clips is that you can clip a lot of thick layers. These clips are very easy to use and they hold a lot of tension for your fabrics, unless you're using slippery fabrics, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. The last feature I want to talk about is the hole in the bottom base of each clip. I don't know if you know this, but there's a hole on the base of these clips. They thought of everything, didn't they? Now the reason why is because you can actually attach these clips to, say, clipboards, walls, in order to hold things. Paper, mail, chips. I mean, not chips. Okay, not chips. So those are the upsides to using a clip. They're pretty useful. I think so anyway. The downside. Let's talk about the ugly. They're not as precise as clips. Have you ever sewn a V-neck? I know some of you are going, yes, I have. If you sewn a V-neck, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Do you quilt? If you quilt, you know exactly what I'm talking about. A clip does not hold those very, very precise corners and edges that you need. When you're sewing a V-neck and you have that little triangular area that you have to sew over or baste first, you're gonna want a pin for that. You're just gonna want a pin. Okay. One more downside to using a clip is that if you're using really thin fabric, it becomes very difficult to hold the fabric up whilst you're sewing it. So if you have a very, very thin jersey and you're sewing a very long piece of thin jersey and your machine is zigzagging away, you're gonna have to keep up with that machine and your foot and holding on to that fabric, because what's gonna happen is the clip sometimes will weigh that fabric down, and then while you're trying to feed it through, your feed dogs aren't able to pull the fabric through the machine at the rate that you're having to feed it because the clips are very heavy. So sometimes you might want to use a pin for that as well. Another downside to using the clips is that they're pretty cumbersome. It's very difficult, unless you're using one of these really large clips, to hold on to them and to grasp them strongly enough to kind of open them and close them. So if you have a difficult time with pincer gripping small items, a clip is going to be better than a pin because it's larger than a pin, but at the same time, it's going to be a little bit difficult to open and close that clip because they do have a lot of tension. They're so colorful, I love them! It's like unicorn in a jar! Okay, I need to calm down. So I've given you some positives for using clips and some negatives for using clips. I've also probably made a small case for those pins back there. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna say clips in general are gonna get a 5 out of 5 from me. What it really boils down to is how much money you wanna spend and if you're brand loyal. To Clover, of course, the Wonder Clip. So I hope you have a great day. I'm gonna have a great day sewing and clipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.